Okay, so Christine Scudder here, ready to talk with you about the topic of attendance and quote dropping out. And you'll notice I put that in quotes, and that's purposeful. As we'll continue to talk about, there are a host of reasons why young people may not be in school, and oftentimes young people are referred to in a pejorative sense as dropouts or kids who drop out. I think it would be often more precise to say that young people are being pushed out either because of school policies, criminalization in schools, and or feeling that schools are not safe, they're not relevant, and so making choices to stand outside of school spaces for those reasons, for other reasons of economic necessity. Hopefully you are continuing to read Monique Morris's book Push Out for this course, and continue to talk more about that next week. So definitely want to make sure that we're all on the same page about kind of the policies and laws that are in place in the state of California, so that we're clear about that, as well as the processes in place to respond to students who are not in school. So we have compulsory attendance at schools in California. The politicians depicted with children on the left and right may look familiar to you. On the left-hand side, we have Kamala Harris, who is greeting some school children. That picture is from when she was the Attorney General of the state of California. Prior to that, she was the district attorney in San Francisco. She's currently a state senator, a Democratic senator from the state of California in Congress, and she is also a presidential candidate for the Democratic Party. On the right-hand side, you have Tony Thurmond, who, again, is a social worker. And if you haven't already looked at it, I included a link to his inauguration, which stands in stark contrast to our federal Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, in many, many ways. And so if you didn't have a chance to take a quick look at, even if you just look at the roster of speakers for his inauguration, it's very telling about his stance on many policies. But that picture on the right is from when he was the assembly member, a state assembly member for the state of California. He represents where I live in Oakland. And he is now, of course, our California State Superintendent of Public Instruction. As we will continue to discuss in this lecture, both of these politicians have definitely left their mark on policy here in the state relating to attendance. So I want to make sure that we're clear about the law. The Education Code here in the state of California requires all children ages 6 to 18 be in school all day, every day, except 16 and 17-year-olds who have graduated or passed the high school exit exam and have obtained parental permission. So I want to take this opportunity to show you how to find education code sections or other sections of the law, and because this is a policy course and as social workers, again, we work not only at the micro level but also meso and macro levels. In my view, I think part of our ability to advocate with and on behalf of families and children that we serve is in part predicated upon our ability to understand the laws and know where to find them, how to read them, both for ourselves and also to share information with schools and also with the people that we're working with, like families and kids. So bear with me for a moment. I'm going to take you to the Ledge Info website. And so I have hyperlinked this on our B-Courses page, this link here, but just for your own information, legeinfo.legislature.ca.gov is where you can find this. And in subsequent weeks, we'll talk about looking for bills and, to be able to track legislation that may be going through the process or bills that may have been passed, in past legislative sessions. But for right now, I want to focus on this tab here, California law. Okay, so you click on the tab, And you can see that all of these are different sections of the law. These hyperlinks represent all of the laws in the state of California. And so there are two ways that you can access the policy that I just mentioned. The first is to go here to Education Code. Okay, there's a variety of codes as social workers. You may be familiar with some of these that get referenced often. The penal code, is where we find our mandated child abuse reporting laws, for example. Some of them are located there. The Welfare and Institution Code, W&I 5150, refers to involuntary psychiatric hospitalization, right? So there's different kind of parts of the law are all referenced here. So again, for the purposes of this, Education Code, or the abbreviation EDC. So if we're going to look for the policy that I just mentioned, you would click here, and that was policy, Education Code section, 48200. And so one way to find it would be to look here under elementary and secondary education, and because 48200 falls between these two numbers, you could click here. And you can scroll down. Sorry if I'm making you dizzy. Scroll, scroll, scroll. I know this is very exciting. And you can see compulsory education law, 48200 to 48361. That's the entire law. We were just looking at that very first part, the 48200. So you can click there, and you can read the actual text of the law. Okay. If you were to click right on the number here, the 48200, you'll see it isolated, right? So just by itself. You could PDF it, you can cut and paste it, you can highlight it, you can email it to yourself. All these great options are available to you. Okay, so that's one way to do it. The other way is to, of course I already showed it to you, but anyway, so you see kind of this general page, right? If you were to start here, and if you, so the way I just showed you can be one way if you're just, want to peruse the law, right? You're bored, no, just kidding. But if you want to kind of look through it yourself and kind of also look at other aspects of the law, beyond the one section that you may have been pointed to, that's one way to do it. If you know exactly what you're looking for, like the slide I showed you, and you wanted to look at the exact reference, you'd go here to the code and select code. Again, you'd find EDC, right? Which we learned over here, education code is EDC, and then it's 48200. So 48200, search, and it takes you right there. Okay, so those are two ways that you can search for laws yourself. And so when you see references in subsequent slides, if you'd like to read the full text of the law, you can find yourself right over there. Okay, so back to some of these other points I want to share with you. So, in addition to there being, the expectation and the law that young people are in school, ages 6 to 18, with exceptions noted, there's also elements of enforcement. And this is depicted in 48320 under the Ed Code. And this looks at enhancing enforcements for compulsory education to divert students with school attendance and behavior problems from juvenile justice until all available resources are exhausted. And this is one of several ways in which current law, as well as we'll talk about subsequent propositions and bills that have gone through the legislature, are really looking at in the state of California how we can interrupt what's called the school to prison pipeline. We'll talk more about that, and you had some reading related to that for this class. And so what I'd like to do next is kind of help you to better understand the steps that are involved with these elements of enforcement, both the SART, Student Attendance Review Team, and SARB, School Attendance Review Board, are two steps. And to help demonstrate this, I'd like to share with you a video. It's a little over 15 minutes that looks through how these processes work through examples in the county of San Diego. it just so happens that they, decided to record this with actors, I believe, in terms of the student and the parent, by the, not necessarily the rest of the folks on the teams. But, they decided to put this forward to kind of share their perspective. But you will see SARB and SART at your local schools. So let me just share this with you. Bear with me for a moment, please.
Hi, I'm San Diego County District Attorney Bonnie Dumanis. I'm here today to ask you to join us as San Diego is on the cutting edge with collaboration, a powerful collaboration between the County Office of Education, probation, law enforcement, the courts, the community, and parents to make sure that kids stay in school. Because we all know in this business that when graduation rates go up, crime goes down. And that's why working together with intervention and prevention, we can keep our kids in school and we can keep them out of the criminal justice system. So join us and bring this back to your communities so that you too can have the success that we have had here in San Diego.
Hi, I'm Steve Ferreri, Student Support Services with the San Diego County Office of Education. The DVD you're about to see today is going to depict the SAR process. We're going to show you 3 different levels of intervention. The first level is going to be at the site level, which is going to be the SART. The second level is at the district level, that'll be your SARB hearing. And last is going to be the court level intervention, which we take their cases to Superior Court. We're now at the actual school site. We're about to see is what we call a SART, School Attendance Review Team process. The SART process is an intervention piece that's conducted by a panel of experts from the school site, includes the parent and the student as well. The case is reviewed, and quite often as we see in these SART cases, although attendance is what got us there are other family dynamic issues involved. The panel will hear the case, provide intervention and support services, and place the student and family on a contract.
Mrs. Maria, I want to thank you for coming in today. Anna, this is a meeting of our Student Attendance Review Team. This is a chance for us to talk about attendance problems and how to solve them. I'm Chris Walsh. I'm the Assistant Principal. We'll just go around and introduce ourselves so that you know who's at the table.
Lori Morgan, Child, Family, and Attendance Specialist.
I'm Kara Jessen, Anna's teacher.
Yvonne Salgado, Deputy Probation Officer.
Heidi Graver, School Social Worker.
And you are?
Eva Murillo, Anna's mother.
Anna Murillo.
Okay. So we're here today because we're concerned about Anna's attendance. So what we'll do is Mrs. Morgan will go over what her attendance record has been. Ms. Jessen will talk a little bit about her academics. And then we'll put together a plan and try and see, what are things that the school can do differently to help you? What are things that you can do differently as a family so that we can see big improvements in attendance? Okay? I'm sorry.
Ms. Murillo, this is a front-end intervention that we do at the district level. However, it can proceed on to a SARB meeting, which is a School Attendance Review Board meeting. And at that point, it's an extension of the court, and it can have a lot of different consequences and requirements that are put in place at that time. So we really try to keep it at the district level so it doesn't proceed to the SARB board.
Anna came to us last year as a 2nd grader. Her attendance started out to be normal within what we would consider normal, but as of March, we started to have some real concerns about her attendance. So last year, we had 4 excused absences and 10 unexcused. Then we had 8 tardies less than 30 minutes and 5 tardies over 30 minutes. This year so far, she's had 2 excused absences and 18 unexcused, and that's a half a month of school, so I'm really concerned about the number of days that she's already missed since we started in September. She also has 15 tardies under 30 minutes and 9 of them over 30 minutes. The other concern that we have too is that Anna does have asthma, but we do not have medication at school for her. So I'm not sure if this is an insurance issue or what we need to do, but we want to help you out there, and the counselor will help you with some of those resources. When she comes to school, she has complained of being hungry, so we want to make sure that we put some free lunch stuff in place for her so that doesn't become an issue for her. And then I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Jessen so she can discuss the academic part of this.
Well, Anna scored basic at the end of second grade last year. Like Miss Morgan said, she is a very well-behaved, she's a well-liked student, she has lots of friends. My concern is she's still at that basic level, and I think if she were coming to school regularly and on time, she could possibly be advanced or proficient. And really, I think she's at that basic level because her attendance is not good. And so that's my main concern with her attendance. Like Miss Morgan said, I'm concerned about her emotionally. She appears depressed. When I ask her about what's going on, she's not really giving me any answers, but it's clear to me that there's something going on. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So, Mrs. Maria, we know that you've had to change your address a number of times last year and then this year. We understand that you're living with friends right now, and we know this is a difficult situation. What would help us to understand is why she's missing so much and why you left the home. And before you say that, I want you to understand that the things you talk about in here are confidential. We don't share them with anybody. We understand it's hard to share your personal matters with the school, but it really helps us make a difference and connect you with the resources that you need. So can you tell us why did you have to leave your home? Or
Well, I know we've both been going through a lot, and I'm not surprised of all the things that are happening at school. We had to leave home because my husband, he's a drinker, he drinks, gets very violent, and I just feel, we both feel, actually I feel that we are in jeopardy. We don't feel safe, and I don't feel that she should be witnessing all these violence at home. I decided to leave, and yes, we don't have a stable home, and that's part of the reason why she's late and absent a lot. I've been trying to find a job, but it's been difficult because I've been out of the workforce for the past 3 years, and I'm an LVN, and I thought it was going to be easy for me to find a job, but I think what it is the time that I've been out of the workforce, it's making it difficult for me. Transportation is an issue. I think about childcare. I really don't want to leave her. You know, she wants to be with me at all times, and especially because of everything that she witnesses. But childcare is a problem for me.
there are a lot of different things, as I'm listening to you talk, that we can put in place as a school. Ms. Graver, do you want to talk about some of the things that we might do, maybe starting with a restraining order?
We can definitely help you, help refer you to a place that can, assist you with that. The restraining order, along with, I know I heard you say, and it sounds like you might be interested in some counseling services for Anna and possibly yourself too. So we can help with those. I have a referral for those. There is a, that would be free of charge to you, and there's actually a program, I think, Officer Salgado, maybe you can talk about.
There is a fund specifically for victims of crime, which you may very well qualify for, so we'll definitely give you some more information, and that can help pay for the counseling and provide you with some other resources.
That'd be great.
Okay, so we can get that going, and I heard you say many things, so I'm going to kind of go through a couple of them. One thing is regarding insurance. I know that that Anna has some asthma, and we really at the school want to make sure her medication is there for her if something were to happen. So we can definitely connect you and apply for Medi-Cal, which I don't see a problem you guys qualifying for at all. That could help with the medication situation and just regular doctor visits, which I'm sure you'd be interested in making. A couple of things, the transportation situation, because of your homeless status right now, our school district can provide bus passes, not just for Anna, but because of her age for you as well, so that she can get to school no matter where you guys are having to stay at the time. Housing, we can also talk about either shelter situations or permanent housing, and I can sit with you and discuss some of these afterwards, along with food resources that we have, breakfast program like Miss Morgan was talking about, and outside food resources.
Our school also has a 6 to 6 before and after school program, because I heard you mention that child care is an issue, and it'll probably help you get a job and things like that if she's taken care of. At those before and after school programs, there's a homework club, and there's other activities that we do. We do offer scholarship funds, and I'm sure you would qualify for those, so we'd be happy to provide that.
That'd be great. That'd be great.
All right, so we have a lot of things to put together, but we're putting this all in an agreement today. And we're saying that as a school, we're going to do certain things. We're going to help provide the free lunch program. We're going to provide the AM/PM. We'll provide the support of our school social worker. And then we're going to ask you to make sure you follow through. with the counseling referrals, with the housing referrals, and especially with information, so that we have your current, we know you might be moving still, but we need current phone numbers and addresses in case there's an emergency. We need to be able to get a hold of you. Main thing is to cooperate. We just don't want this to get to the district level and go up to Student Attendance Review Board. We want to keep this here at the school. Based on what I'm hearing, I think we can make some real progress. So if you can sign this saying that you'll have her attend school every day on time and follow all the school rules, as well as keeping the agreements of the interventions we just talked about, that will be great. If you could sign right here, please. And then Anna, I'm going to have you sign as well, because this is about you. Right there where it says student. So we need your agreement.
Anna, do you like school?
Yes.
And as the teacher said, we really appreciate having her here. And we just are looking forward to, the changes that are going to happen, and for her meeting her potential, because she's a great girl.
Thank you.
And it's been a pleasure to meet you today. We'll give you copies of this. You'll be meeting with Ms. Graver now, just to go over the other forms, the release forms, so that we can get this all going.
That'd be great. Thank
Okay.
you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Thank you
it.
for coming.
The segment you're about to see is a School Attendance Review Board SARB process. It is a district level hearing, and in this case it is being held at a sheriff's department. You'll see in this process a panel of experts from the district that is going to provide support services and put in place for the students some safety nets so we can stabilize attendance so the student can reach his and her potential and be successful. The outcome would be a contract. If the contract is upheld, then the process would end there with just monitoring. If the contract is violated, then the next step would be to refer it to the juvenile court for further involvement and another layer of intervention.
Good morning. My name is Lucia Washburn. I'm the chairperson for the SARB committee this morning. What we're going to do is go around the table, introduce ourselves, and let you know where everybody's from so that you're aware of who's speaking with you. And then we want to hear from the school as to what's been going on at school. And then Shantae, I need to hear from you what's been happening at school. All right?
Good morning. My name is Jennifer Mendel. I'm your assistant principal at your school.
Randy Avila, school resource officer.
I'm Crystal Kavanaugh. I'm the school nurse.
Good morning. I'm Mara Madrigal-Weiss with the Community Mental Health Agency.
Mark Ainsworth, Sheriff's Department, Detective Juvenile Services.
Hi, I'm Dennis Leggett from County of San Diego, Child Welfare Services.
I'm Dave McDonald with the San Diego County Probation Department.
Hi, I'm Shantae Williams.
Hi, I'm Renee. I'm Shantae's mother.
Thank you for being here.
All right, can we hear from the school, please, as to what's been going on at school?
Thank you. Shantae is a 9th grader that had started missing classes in the first 2 months of the school year. She began missing classes here and there, but it has escalated to where she is missing full days now and is truant for full days. We have sent the first letter of truancy home on September 15th of '08. Did you receive that letter, Ms. Williams?
Yes, I did.
We sent the second notification of truancy on October 20th of 2008, and you received that letter also?
Yes, I did.
Okay. We also held a student attendance review team meeting on October 28th. At that meeting, both Shantae and her mother attended, and we discussed how Shantae's lack of attendance is directly affecting her academic success. At the end of the first progress report, she had 3 Fs and 2 Ds. Shantae's basic discipline is good. She seems to be a pleasant young child when she is in class and had satisfactory citizenship. But unfortunately, since that SART hearing, she did have an incident where she was caught with marijuana. We did refer her to an alternative site for an intervention program on the marijuana use. Since she has returned, her attendance has become no better. She is still missing an excessive amount of days. At the SART meeting, we had referred her to the Family Resource Center for counseling. We also referred that the child would have weekly progress reports brought home to you. We also asked for the tutorial program to be implemented at the school site. So at this point in time, we're before this board because Shantae, your attendance has not improved. And at this point in time, she is receiving no credit at all for first semester.
Was she arrested for that marijuana, or did you just refer her? Yeah, I issued her a citation. So, Mom, what's been going on at home with her? How's she treating you? How are things going on in the household?
Shantae sleeps a lot, lethargic, very hard to get up in the mornings, and very disrespectful.
Ms. Williams, is there any medical issues that the school needs to be aware of that is preventing Shantae from going to school every day?
Shantae is quite healthy.
And the counseling, Ms. Williams, you said you did not attend. Why is that?
Because I couldn't get Shantae to agree to follow through with me.
I want you to know that we do have counseling available, and with that we would perform an assessment and see what kind of counseling service plan we can develop, not only for Shantae, but also for you, Ms. Williams, so you can work together with her and support her needs. Is that something you would be interested in doing and really following through with this time?
Yes, we'll try it.
And we also have access to our Teen Recovery Center, so we will be making referrals to that, and it'll be a comprehensive system that we're working with for you.
Shantae, how old are you?
14.
Where do you envision yourself being in 10 years? What goals have you set for yourself?
I like to act.
Are you taking drama at school right now? Is that one of the classes? Why is that? Why aren't you taking drama?
Drama is an extracurricular activity. She needs to first take care of her core classes and do well in that, and then she can take drama.
So you want her to focus on doing well in school and then use that as an incentive?
Yes.
You know, one of the things that we can do as a board is connect her to a community youth theater, and that would bring some structure to those after-school hours, some of those hours that you're worried about her not having good supervision. Is that something that both of you would be interested in? Would you be interested in getting hooked up with the, you know about which theater I'm talking about, right? Okay. We'd like to recommend that, I think.
Anything else that the group thinks might be important for Shantae?
I think she needs to attend summer school to make up some of the credits she has lost this semester. Shantae, be aware, you can graduate high school on time with your class. You have 3 years left that you can have summer school or an extra class each year, and we can get you back up to par to where you are graduating with your peers.
Do you understand you're breaking the law when you're not in school?
Yes.
Okay, and you understand when you break the law there's consequences? Okay, but the courts and the judges, they don't want to see someone in their courtroom for something like not going to school, so they give you every opportunity. So this board is going to give you an opportunity to enter into an agreement. Ms. Washburn is going to talk about it, and if you participate, you're willing to cooperate, you can avoid going to court. You understand that?
Yes. Okay, well, there's some things that we've written into the contract, but the basic contract says that you will be in school every day. You will not be able to excuse any absences for her if she needs to miss school. So if you're too sick to attend school, you either need to see the school nurse, and the school nurse will determine if you're too sick to stay, or you will need to take her to the doctor, and the doctor will need to write a note as to why she needs to be out of school and for how many days. The other thing that's very important on this contract is we have written down here that it's in effect until your 18th birthday. So we're not going anywhere. Your job is to get that diploma, and our job is to make sure that it happens. But in addition, I've written down that you will participate in the counseling services that are being offered. It's too important for you right now. You need that support. And then I've written down here the community youth theater and summer school and tutorials. So this is part of the contract that you're agreeing to participate in. All right? Do you have any questions? Does anyone else have any questions?
Shantae, just so you understand, after you sign this agreement, you're either in school or you're not. I'm not going to come chase you around. No one's going to beg you to go to school. No one's going to threaten you. Either you do it or you don't. And if you don't, Miss Mendel's going to call me, and we're going to go over your attendance. And if you're not there, I'm going to take your case before the court, or I'm going to take it to the district attorney. So it's not out of sight, out of mind. I don't want you to get caught up missing a day here, missing a class here, and think nothing's going to happen. Then you're getting a knock on the door, and you're before the judge. And Shantae, guess what? They have school in juvenile hall. So you will be going to school one way or another.
Okay. Here's a copy of the contract for both of you. Do you have any other questions for us? No. Shantae? Okay, we'll see you in school. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for being here.
Good luck.
So again, those were some brief examples where you could kind of see how a SART and SARB meetings might come together as some examples. You heard about in the videos reference to truancy, specifically when they were talking about more with the elementary age student. So just to understand how truancy is defined in California, some people are surprised to realize the amount of time that constitutes truancy. So as defined in the Education Code, more than 30 minutes on 3 days without a valid excuse in one school year, that's considered truant, subject to arrest, and subject to suspension, restriction, or delay of driving privileges. A subsequent truant is someone who is truant or absent, who is again absent or tardy for 1 or more days without a valid excuse. It's important to understand that there are some significant consequences for truancy. The delay of restriction or suspension of driving privileges pertains obviously more to high school students in particular, but that can be something that can be helpful for them to read about in the law. And so instead of the Ed Code, EC, you could go to the VC, the vehicular code sections, and now you know where to go look for those. Subsequent truant, then habitual truant, is someone who's reported as truant 3 or more times a year, and the school must make conscientious effort to hold at least one conference. And so that conference might be a SART meeting, might be an example of that. It may be somewhat less formal than a SART. So Kamala Harris, as mentioned, when she was Attorney General for the state of California, proposed a bundle of truancy bills. This was one of her signature kind of issues when she was in office as the Attorney General in the state of California. She proposed 4 initially. 2 were vetoed by the governor. 2 were signed into law in 2014. And this really looked at increasing levels of accountability, including criminalization. And so this was quite controversial. It required prosecutors to report to school officials on the outcome of legal referrals for truancy violations, required SARB boards to include members of the district attorney and the public defender's office, so kind of really taking it to that next level. The examples that you saw were really kind of in children's services and the juvenile kind of side of legal interventions. So those were from 2008, right? So in 2014, there was a requirement for the SARB boards to have the DA and the PD's office. So this, includes representation for both the parent and the family through the public defender, the district attorney representing kind of, quote, the interests of the state of California. Kamala Harris was really clear in making links between truancy, academic problems, financial costs, and crime. Some of the statistics she brought forward in the bills that she helped to propose were almost 30% of California elementary students were truant. So that's a pretty stark number. So younger kids where, clearly they depend a lot on their parents and families to get them to school, right? 40% of truant students in California are elementary students. And so those are some pretty high numbers. B Courses, I shared her publications In School and On Track, AG's report on California and elementary school truancy and absenteeism crisis. And that's, again, while these laws apply to all students, she definitely focused a lot on concerns for elementary students. So there were some recent Twitter tweets about Kamala Harris as a presidential candidate. and kind of unearthing some of her comments and statements and recorded remarks. And I want to just share one of those that you may have seen recently that kind of looks at her her stance on this topic. So I want to just share this with you briefly.
I would not be standing here were it not for the education I received. And I know many of us will say the same thing. And I believe a child going without an education is tantamount to a crime. So I decided I was going to start prosecuting parents for truancy. Well, this was a little controversial in San Francisco. And frankly, my staff went bananas. They were very concerned because we didn't know at the time whether I was going to have an opponent in my re-election race. But I said, look, I'm done. This is a serious issue, and I've got a little political capital, and I'm going to spend some of it. And this is what we did. We recognized that in that initiative, as a prosecutor and law enforcement, I have a huge stick. The school district has got a carrot. Let's work in tandem around our collective objective and goal, which is to get those kids in school. So, to that end, on my letterhead, now let me tell you something about my letterhead. When you're the DA of a major city in this country, usually the job comes with a badge. And there is often an artistic rendering of said badge on your stationery. So I sent a letter out on my letterhead to every parent in the school district, outlining the connection that was statistically proven between elementary school truancy, high school dropouts, who will become a victim of crime, and who will become a perpetrator of crime. We sent it out to everyone. A friend of mine actually called me and he said, Kamala, my wife got the letter. She freaked out. She brought all the kids into the living room, held up the letter, said, if you don't go to school, Kamala's going to put you and me in jail. Yes, we achieved intended effect.
So, as we can see from that example, this again, Kamala Harris started this work when she was a district attorney in San Francisco and carried it forward, right, as she became the Attorney General. So, you may have seen these clips, and there's some talk about kind of back and forth about what people think about her stance on this topic. And, we definitely saw, like, as this was going forward in 2014, then into 2015, some additional policies came forward, which we'll talk about. Some additional truancy facts in California: 75% of those who are chronically absent are students who are low income. Other subgroups: foster youth, homeless youth, and youth in special education, folks who have high levels of chronic truancy. So again, some of these groups also kind of coincide with the local control funding formula and looking at prioritized districts and prioritized funding for districts and schools where there are higher numbers of students, for example, of foster youth and homeless youth, right? So we have some money coming into schools that way, recognizing the need to address issues of truancy. We also had Proposition 47. You might remember some of this campaign. There were billboards like this one all over the Bay Area. Prop 47 with the tagline of keeping students out of the school to prison pipeline, and really comparing what we spend per year on a K-12 student versus a prison inmate, right? Spending almost four times the amount in prison inmates than we do on children. And so Prop 47 was known as the Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act, and together with the local control funding formula and kind of designing the state plan under ESSA that we talked about in our prior course, really looks at saving money through this fund to be used to kind of combat truancy. And so what this proposition that passed put into place was first of all targeting student populations with the highest need. And so what that looked like were districts with chronic rates of chronic absenteeism, suspensions, or school dropout that exceed the state average, either for the entire population of students or subgroups of students. Some of those subgroups I mentioned at higher risk a moment ago. And one of the things that was very specific, this proposition, to look at not just districts, but even within a district, you might find a really wide disparity. For example, folks talked about in San Diego, which was the examples we were seeing of SARB and SART earlier. There was a range between in the same school district between a 0.3 level of absenteeism to 12.6%, depending on the school, right? And for some of the reasons that we talked about, parts of the district that may be in lower income areas may have seen higher rates of absenteeism and quote dropout. And so the intention here was that the funds from this act would be prioritized towards the schools who needed it the most. That they would concentrate funding and looking at the potential to create systemic change. And so the idea was that instead of giving many districts a little bit of money, that they would make fewer larger grants and prioritize proposals from districts that had a commitment to really address this issue at a broader level. That the fund would address evidence-based strategies for non-punitive, research-backed interventions that combat chronic absenteeism in the school-to-prison pipeline. That language is really explicit. That also they would look to prioritize funding proposals that explicitly and thoroughly describe how the impact will be measured and evaluated. And so there's a lot of potential overlap, again, with the local control funding formula in articulating, in the LCAP to look at, that district's plan for addressing these issues. And so the idea was that through targeting chronic absenteeism, a fund would be created through the monies that were saved by the fact that those students were in school, and that 25% of that fund would be used to address funding grants as described. And so that was sort of kind of the idea behind Prop 47. Excuse me. And then it required, kind of came together through AB 1014, which was authored by Tony Thurmond, then Assemblymember Thurmond. And that's where it really articulated this 25% of the funds from Prop 47 will be dispersed to the State Department of Education in the Safe Neighborhood Schools Fund to administer the grant programs that I just described. And so Prop 47 was basically the idea, and AB 1014 was the law, the bill that became a law that kind of looked to operationalize it. So this is just another example of how California was taking this very seriously. Another resource that, and I've asked you to look at for some reading this week, addresses the average daily attendance, or ADA. You'll hear schools talk about this, and sometimes people, there's lots of acronyms, so sometimes people think ADA is the Americans with Disabilities Act, which it also is that acronym, but when you hear this in schools, oftentimes people mean the average daily attendance. And so how the ADA is calculated is the total days of student attendance divided by the days of instruction, and that's how much the school districts get in terms of funding. So per pupil spending in California is up to $9,067 in academic year 14-15, and the actual total is based on ADA, right? So looking at what we have for ADA, as a state, you can also look at ADA by district, by school, but then, that's how you calculate how much we're spending per child. So when you see those stats, that's where it comes from. And ADA is tied to LCAP, right? We talked about LCAP in prior sessions. Student engagement is a huge priority for LCAP. And so, when we look at what are the school plans We need to make sure that student engagement is addressing issues of absenteeism in schools. And if young people aren't coming to school, again, as social workers, what are we missing, right? What's going on in the family that we can offer support? What's going on at school where it may not be relevant, may not feel safe? What's happening to where young people aren't getting to school? That's just kind of some brief information on policies that relate to attendance and dropping out, quote unquote. And into next week, we will start looking at push out more directly. So I look forward to talking with you then. Thanks so much.